How is it going, everybody? This is RBT coming at you with the first episode of the North Carolina NCAA 15/14 Dynasty series. You guys have been waiting on this a long time. The initial trailer came out about a month ago. The reveal trailer came out a few days ago, and here we are with the first episode, which will be preseason activity. I want to show you some of the changes I made to correlate with the actual next year's NCAA football season, and then just some preseason recruiting and showing you a little bit of the depth chart and stuff like that. So it's going to be a very simple first episode, and then we'll kick things off in a few days after this upload, which will be the actual week 1 official episode of this Dynasty series. So, let's get right into it. I want to show you the sliders, custom conferences, which correlate to the real NCAA conference expansion for the upcoming year, and the way I fold with the BCS Bowl tie-ins to make it more realistic to correlate with this year's new playoff format and the big bowl system they have now. So first, let's go into the sliders and everything correlating with that. As we see here, we have generate auto names off, obviously, to keep the real name rosters on for next year's rosters. Everything here is set to default normal. Moving over to gameplay options, obviously everything is on Heisman mode. Quarter length is at 8. Play clock is on. I did not mean to say play clock. Game speed normal. Player minimum speed threshold is down to 45. This is the difference in between faster and slower players. The lower it is, the biggest difference there is, which I think is more realistic. I see some people that do not change this setting, but I mean, isn't it more realistic there should be a bigger difference in between the faster and slower players? So that's how I do it. I don't make it too drastic. I've seen some people drop it all the way to 40. I like it to keep it just in between 40 and 50 at 45. All this remains on. Moving over to game rules. This is a few changes here. Offsides and false starts moved all the way up to 95 because they're barely ever called unless you have them this high. Holdings the same. Face mask is up just a little bit to 52 because you see sometimes, sometimes you see an obvious face mask and they don't call it. So bumping it up just a little bit could be that difference. Interferences are all the same. Intentional groundings up to 60. Trying to give it a little boost there because you hardly ever see it called in this game. Roughing the passers up just a little bit to 54 and roughing the kickers the same. Moving over to custom AI, and this is where it gets really interesting. QB accuracy for the user. This is all the user stats. 15. Pass blocking at 60. Catching at 45. Running back ability stays at 50. Run blocking is 25. Pass coverage is dropped down to 50. Oh, it's just 55. I had it at 60 and tried to make an initial video and I messed up doing it. I dropped it in the initial video down to 55 from 60 because I have a good reason doing so. And you'll see I kind of have it flip-flop for the user and the computer sliders between pass coverage and interceptions because, when you play as a user on Heisman mode or on either NCAA football or Madden, you can never get interceptions. It's about impossible. So what you like to do is you like to keep the pass coverage about the same, but bump interceptions just a little bit to make it more realistic. So that's here. As you see in just a second, computers will be kind of completely flipped. Rush defense is down to 45, tackling down to 45, and you see some changes here to the field goal and punting game and kickoff as well. Moving over to the computer sliders, QB accuracy is a little bit higher than the user at 20. Pass blocking is up to 60. Wide receiver catching is 45. Running back ability 50. Run blocking 25. And this is the difference right here. As you know, I'm sure you've all had this problem as well. When you play the computer on Madden or NCAA on the highest level, it goes without saying you're going to throw a lot of interceptions, no matter if it's a good pass, bad pass, just a mistake. They never drop it. So what I like to do to kind of even things out is I like to put the pass coverage up a little bit higher to make it stronger pass coverage, but in response, drop the interceptions down all the way to 35 so they won't be picking the ball off every single time because that gets really aggravating and that is not realistic whatsoever. So rush defense, that's that. Rush defense is down to 45, tackling down to 45, and field goal and punting game is the same as the user, except punt accuracy is up a little bit higher to 70. So that is that, and that's all the same there. So now we should move into custom conferences to show you the changes that are made to correlate with this year's real conferences, and this is really just for the people that aren't up to date on the new conference expansion. SEC remains the same. Sun Belt's new additions are Idaho and New Mexico State, who have came over from the independent level. They both had left the WAC after that conference decimated from the football playing sports, or the football sport. There's no longer a WAC conference. So they had to go to the independent level because nobody wanted to pick them up. And now Sun Belt has lost a few more teams, and they decided to add Idaho and New Mexico State. What I did not know is that Idaho and New Mexico State are no strangers to Sun Belt. Just around the early 2000s, they both were football-only members in the Sun Belt. So I thought that was really interesting. But the problem here is the fact that Sun Belt has 9 teams here, but in real life they're going to have 11. They're going to have Georgia Southern and Appalachian State are coming over from the FCS level and are joining the Sun Belt. But problem is, they're not on the game. The option is I could add them through Team Builder, but there's 2 problems with that. The fact that the rosters will not be the same, and they're not going to be updated because they're created by just a user, not somebody updating the rosters, such as the great gentleman who updated this rosters to make it realistic. And 2, you would have to delete teams to add them into this. So to avoid that, I just kept it at 9 and didn't fool with that. So going into the ACC, the only addition they had was they brought Louisville over from the AAC, and then they lost Maryland to the Big Ten, but everything else is the same. The American Conference lost Rutgers to the Big Ten as well, but they brought in a few members over from this USA, which was Tulane, ECU, and Tulsa. Those are the new members for the American Conference, and next year I believe Navy will be coming over. I have to make sure on that, but that is true. Navy will be joining the AAC in my Dynasty as well after the first season. So next, Big 12 remains the same. Big 10 is where a lot of the changes made. First of all, they decided to go away with the names, the leaders and legend divisions, which I really agreed with because I hated those names. It sounded way too corny, so it's just traditional West and East divisions here in the conference. The new members, Rutgers and Maryland, are both in the East Conference, along with the traditional powers of the Big Ten, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State. And a lot of people like to say the East looks more challenging than the West, and I do have to agree. But, you know, the West still has some pretty good teams in Nebraska, Iowa, Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, Illinois, and Purdue. I think they will get better. So moving on to this USA, they lost a few teams to the AAC, like I mentioned earlier, but they did bring over a few schools. Western Kentucky comes over from the Sun Belt, which you hand it to them. They were very successful in the Sun Belt, and they earned a spot here in the Conference USA. And Old Dominion comes over as an independent member, but they really just went to be independent. They wanted to join the FBS level as soon as possible, but they didn't have an invite to this USA until this season. So they really were always going to be a part of this USA, but to be an FBS level member, they had to be independent first. So they come over as an independent member, and both teams joined the East Division in this USA. Independents remain the same, although I said Navy is going to be leaving soon. I'm not sure if Army's going to be joining the Sun Belt, but I mean not the Sun Belt, the AAC. I heard there was rumors, but nothing concrete. I'll have to check up on that. But I think Navy for sure is joining the AAC. And these 2 teams are probably going to remain the same, even though Notre Dame is joining that contract with the ACC in football, although there's nothing I can do about that on the game. Unless maybe I can, no, I don't know if I can do custom schedules for a team that's not myself, but I'll have to see. But yeah, obviously New Mexico State and Idaho both left for the Sun Belt, so those are 2 departures from the independent levels. MAC remains the same, although there is rumors also that UMass might be leaving the MAC because they're a football-only member, and the MAC just wants to have 12 teams that are all playing in all sports. But I'm not real sure. But if that does change, I will change that in my Dynasty. There's actually a rumor that they might join the Sun Belt if they're kicked out of the MAC, because the Sun Belt wants to move up to 12 teams. But we'll have to see if that change is made in real life. It will be reflected in my Dynasty series. Next, we have the Mountain West Conference. That's all the same. Pac-12 is the same. SEC is the same, and that is that. One last thing in this preseason part of this video is the BCS Bowl tie-ins and how I changed this around to make it reflect this year's new playoff system as much as possible. As you see, what I did is I took away the actual bowl game automatic bid for the Power 5 conferences, but I just gave them an any bid. They do get an automatic spot to one of the big bowls, the BCS bowls, which will be in this Dynasty, but not a specific one, because that's really just going to is really the best way to put it in correlation to the real life playoff system. And I also took away the AAC's automatic bid because, you know, they don't have an automatic bid anymore. But the thing is, I think now, if I had this right, the highest ranked team out of the non-Power 5 schools gets an automatic bid to one of the big bowls, which are pretty much the old BCS bowls. But there's no way to make that in this dynasty. So what I did was I made 3 at-large spots. So you never know, maybe 1, maybe even 2 teams will get a at-large spot to a BCS bowl that are from non-Power 5 conferences. So as you see, all the Power 5 teams have automatic bids, but not to a specific school. I mean, specific bowl. So with that said, that does it for this part of the preseason. Let me go create the Dynasty, and I'll come at you with more preseason activity in just a second. Welcome back, guys, and here we are with the last part of the preseason episode before we kick things into week 1. And most importantly, we have to show you the custom schedule, and this is just about on par with their schedule this season. The only difference is the out-of-conference schedule is missing 1 game, and that is because for some reason this game has us playing 9 in-conference games, which only allows for 3 out-of-conference games, which doesn't make sense because in real life the ACC only plays 8 out-of-conference games. But for some reason, when you play with 14 teams in the conference in this game, it automatically gives you non-conference games, which I think is really strange. But it really doesn't matter because the 4th out-of-conference game was against Liberty, which would be FCS on this game, so it's really just nothing we're missing. But we do get the 3 pretty good games out of conference, which starts with San Diego State at home, week 1. Then we have an open week. Then we go play at East Carolina, which is always a tough one. A few in-conference games: Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech. And then we go into South Bend to play Notre Dame at number 6 Miami. Then home against NC State, home against Virginia, Pitt, home against Florida State. That's a big one, and at Duke. Schedule's very, very strange, as you see. Out of the first 7 weeks, only 2 games at home. And then from week 10 on, we only play 1 game away. So a really odd schedule. We have to do some good things early on and try to grab some wins away from home. And that is the schedule for this year. So with that, let's jump into the red shirts. To show you the guys that have red shirt. Really not going to talk about it. As you see here, just from the start, our 5 top players are all seniors. So we know this is a senior-led team right off the bat. So I guess it's going to be kind of like the depth chart and red shirt things. Don't have to waste anybody's time. We have a freshman coming in, Caleb Henderson. He's getting red-shirted. As you see, the starter obviously is going to be Marquise Williams, the scrambler who took over for Bryn Renner last year after he got injured. So we have running backs, TJ Logan, Romar Morris, and Elijah Hood's going to be the top 3. Elijah Hood, obviously the 5-star recruit coming in. He looks to get some playing time as a freshman, although he has 2 really good running backs in front of him. And then we're redshirting a sophomore, Charles Brunson, at the bottom of the depth chart. And you also have Chris Francis. Fullbacks, we have Connor Gonet at the fullback position, a freshman, so he'll be here for a good 4 years. Wide receiver is actually a weak point. And I'm actually redshirting 1 upperclassman just because I'm trying to keep the depth there. It kind of hurts us for this year, but it will help us in the long run. We don't have that many great wide receivers. We have 1 good one in Quinshad Davis, a junior, 84 overall. Then it kind of drops off, even though we know Ryan Switzer is an absolute beast returning the football. I'll have to see if he can step up as an actual wide receiver this year. So some of these guys have to step up this year for us to get some production through the pass game. Tight end, we have a solid senior Jack Tabb, 86 overall. We're redshirting a freshman, Brandon Fritz. And we have a senior Eric Albright who will play second string tight end and 2 tight end formations will be in there. Good for the senior numbers. 49, Eric Albright. Left tackle, have a solid guy sophomore there, RJ Prince, backed up by a redshirt sophomore who's just about as good. To see who plays the best and see who wins that job. We have Bentley Spain, the freshman, who looks to be very good throughout his career. He definitely will have some playing time eventually, but he's getting redshirt this year, so we have a lot of depth on this offensive line, which I like. As you see here, We already have a redshirts here at the left guard position. Center, the sophomore Lucas Crowley is going to get the start there. Right guard, we have a freshman being redshirted, Jared Cohen. I'm not really worried about redshirting him, even though we only have 2 listed right guards, because we have a lot of depth on this line. So a few redshirts won't be anything. We have 3 right tackles. One of them's getting redshirted. Caleb Samuel, the freshman, also looks to get some playing time throughout his career. Moving on to the defensive side of the football, defensive end, junior non-Conde. I have to learn that one. Non-Conde, I would say, is going to get the start there. DeJuan Drennan, freshman. Then the redshirt freshman Robert Dinkins, he's getting the redshirt put on this year. Right end, we have Jesse Rogers is going to start, 79 overall. And then Jeremiah Clark, 72 overall freshman, is going to get the red shirt. Defensive tackle is something we're going to have to recruit pretty hard, but we have some 2 really good tackles to lead the way. And Sean Underwood and Devontae Brown, another senior, really good senior, and Ethan Farmer looks to get some playing time too, right behind the other 2. And Justin Thomason, the junior, is going to get a red shirt put on him just so we have him for another extra year, because defensive tackle is looking very thin. We have to get some good defensive tackles this year in recruiting. Here we go. We're actually redshirting a senior just for depth purposes. Nork Ethus Otis. Some people might disagree with me on redshirting him, but I felt it was in our best interest. Could have redshirted the freshman, but we have another chance to redshirt him later. If we don't redshirt him now, he will never play again. So that's that. The middle linebacker going to be Dan Mastromattio. Looks to get the start there. Right outside linebacker Travis Hughes looks to be one of the best linebackers on the team and in the country. We have 3 seniors at right outside linebacker, so one of them's getting a red shirt just like the other, just for depth purposes, but probably good for him so he can get some playing time later on in his career. Very fast linebacker too, 87 speed linebacker getting the red shirt, so we'll definitely need him next year. Kind of thin at corner too. Some young guys have to step up, although they're all going to be coming back. Decided just to redshirt one of them because we're kind of thin, but that is good for the future. Free safeties, kind of the same. We have a really good free safety in Tim Scott, 88 overall. He'll be leaving this year, but we have some after this year, but we'll have some good guys behind him as well. Alan Artis is getting the red shirt. And then strong safety, we have 2 juniors and a senior. Redshirting the senior just again for depth purposes. And we don't know what he can do. Can always change positions. Always nice to have some pretty good guys on the team. We're just going to leave him here and be here for another extra year. And then we have 2 juniors fighting for the job there. Darian Rankin and Sam Smiley. And then our kicker's a senior, so we have to recruit a kicker. 86 overall, Thomas Moore. And then punter, Tommy Hibbert. So that is the depth chart / redshirt players this year. And last thing to cover for this episode is going to be our recruiting board. If I'm not mistaken, that will be it. So let's show you the recruiting board I have. I like to keep it kind of simple and just hit the needs, not to put too many guys in there. Just try to get the guys that are interested in us, not make it too difficult, but just get the guys that want to be a Tar Heel. And as you see, this is in no particular order, just the way I put them on the board. Let's get it to where it shows their faces. Here we have Joe Moses, a wide receiver. Then we have Jonathan Sapp, another wide receiver. And let's just go by position. We don't have any quarterbacks on the board. We have 1 running back just because he's a 5-star and was interested in us. To see, he was actually listed as a power back, but he's very fast. So, to be another really good running back to put in the backfield. I wasn't necessarily going to recruit a running back, so we have some young guys back there. But when talent wants you, definitely give him a shot to come to your team. So, we'll put him there, Nick Brown. And we move on to fullback. He was also pretty good fullback, so we put him back there with the other freshman. It just, I mean, it's you got talent wanting to come to you, you might as well take it. 2 wide receivers, because the wide receiver position is kind of thin, but not too many wide receivers were interested in us. But these 2 guys are actually extremely fast. Their 40 times, I believe, were sub 4.4, so that's pretty good. And but not as good as I wanted, but don't want to put too much emphasis on one position when I have a lot more than I need. Lionel Cobbs, a tight end, looking to come to me, is actually the highest recruit that was first interested in me. So this is going to be interesting. See if it can show his points. There we go, 75 overall. Oh, never mind, it shows it right there. All right, moving on. Tackle, got 2 tackles that are interested in me first. and actually two big guys, and they're actually pretty fast for their positions. That's why I really like putting them on my board. They were sub 5s, like 4.8s, 4.7s for tackle, so that was actually pretty interesting. Jason Hall is a guard that was interested in me, 3-star. Center, Justin Carr, always nice just to have some depth outside that line, onside the line, and I mean, you'll see me every single year recruit at least 1 or 2 offensive linemen at each position just to keep continuously adding depth. No defensive ends on the board. I really liked our depth there. 2 tackles, and I was very disappointed because not too many tackles were interested in me. So I'm having to settle for Scott Moore, but hopefully he can come in a 2-star. He wants to come here, so somebody that wants to play for me. Then we have James Houston, who's in our top 5. We'll have to see if we can get a lead on him. And I'm really, really wanting James Houston because, I mean, that's our biggest position to need is defensive tackle, and we need somebody to come in and be able to play right away, and he has the best chance to do so out of the prospects interested in me. Moving on, outside linebacker, we have a lot of seniors, and that's a big position to need too. So we got some pretty good guys here in Orlando Noble and Kenny Jackson. And moving on to middle linebacker, another solid guy, Nick McCoy. Cornerbacks, we had some young quarterbacks, but heck, let's throw some on there and add some depth. That's one thing, we didn't have a lot of depth. We had a lot of young guys, but we need to add some depth now so we can just have some guys there set in stone for the next few years. Free safety, nobody there. Strong safety, we had John Stewart and Jonathan Jackson. Thing is, I mean, even we don't have any free safeties on the board. Say we get too much depth in the strong safety position, we can always convert one of these guys, and they'll for sure make a fine free safety. So John Stewart, solid, and also is Jonathan Jackson, both listed at 6 foot. Kind of funny, John Stewart's 12 pounds lighter than Jonathan Jackson, but listed as a hard hitter. We have 1 kicker on the board, and Cole Coleman, and unfortunately we did not have a punter on the board. Maybe I'll have to look at that later, but last thing is an athlete, and we have the only reason he's on the board too is because he was interested in us. We don't know what position he would be. Looking at him, maybe I'm not sure, it could be anywhere from a corner. What did he have in the scouting department? Strength decent. Doesn't look like a corner, so maybe a free safety. Free safeties don't have to have great press. Maybe a running back, maybe a wide receiver. We'll just have to see. Then Rodney Morris, what was he scouted as? Nothing. Doesn't look like a defensive play. Let's see. Looks like a maybe a running back also. Maybe a wide receiver. Where's his catching at? Catching. See, I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's it, guys. That's it for week 1. I mean, for preseason of this North Carolina Dynasty series. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're ready for week 1. I know I am. I'm about to get this series going, and I hope you're excited. I've been waiting a long time for it. I'm ready to finally get a series going and growing big here on my channel. So make sure you guys tune in to week 1 versus San Diego State for this new North Carolina Dynasty series. I'll catch you guys then. Stay tuned. Roll Tide, go Sox, and go Titans to you. I'll catch you guys later. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you're excited for this series, and big hit that like button. Catch you guys next time. Peace.